I really love this informational book about birds for lots of reasons. It's simple and it's beautiful, and it's organized really well. It gives lots of really great information about birds, and it does it in a fun and interesting way. I'm excited because today you're going to start the process of writing your very own book about the bird you became an expert on. So, the bird that I've been studying is the mountain bluebird. So, the thing that I want to talk to you about today is how writers write. How did this author, Justin McCory Martin, write this book? Did he just sit down one day and start typing it and putting in photographs, or did he make a plan? So what I want to share with you today is that writers do make a plan, and they do also what's called the writing process. So process are steps you take, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, until you finish with a project. So the project that we're working on is the book. I shared with you in the schedule something called My Writing Process Tracker. And it works from the bottom to the top. And it's got the steps in here that authors use to write. So it actually starts ours at the bottom because I like it to grow to the top. So I'm just going to tell you the steps and tell you what each of them mean. So this first one says pre-write. Pre means before. So these are the things you do before you've even done any writing at all. The next step is to write. So you do what's called your first draft or your first copy of your writing. But when you're done with that, that's where some people think they're done. They write it and then think it's done. Some writers say when you think you're done, you've just begun. So after you write your book, you do these other steps. We'll do these one at a time in the next 2 weeks, but I want you to see where we're going with it. After it's written, we do something called revise. We look at it again and read it and say, does this make sense? Or do I need to add some things to this? Did I forget to say something? Do I want to make something sound a little bit more interesting or clear? So revising is when we read what we wrote and you look at it again. I'm going to put little glasses there because it kind of means look at it with fresh eyes and read it like you're the reader and see how it sounds. After you've done that, we do something called editing, which is really just fixing up mistakes. I'm going to put a little hammer on mine just to show that we use our tools so that if we forgot a period or a capital or we spelled something wrong, this is the step where we fix it. And then after we've done all these things, we'll do the very last step in about 2 weeks where we publish it. And that's where you write it with everything you wanted to say, making sure it made sense, with all of your spelling words spelled correctly, and you rewrite it with your best craftsmanship. So this is called the writing process. The writing process. So this is what writers do. Pre-writing. We've been doing this. Before we have even written anything about the birds, we have been researching and finding out all we could about that bird. So I'm writing the word research in there. Because I'm done researching the bird, I learned about its habitat. I learned about what its feet and its beak were like. I learned about the food it eats. I learned about what type of nest it makes. I did all this pre-writing. So I'm going to color it because I'm done with this step. I did my pre-writing and so did you. Sydney said she wanted to do a little more research, so you can research as you go too. So I'm going to color in, and if you don't have a printer, you can make one of these like I did. It really didn't take me that long. It says, next I will. Next, I'm going to start thinking about what I'm going to write. And this is your job today. You are going to write a table of contents. You're not going to start writing all you know about it. You are going to write your table of contents. And you did this when we did vertebrate books. You might have been the person in charge of writing the table of contents. So I wrote, next I will make a. Because writers also don't just start writing. They usually start by thinking about, what do I want to teach the reader in this book? Now you are going to make your own choices about what you want the chapters to be. You have to think about, what did you learn and what do you want to teach your reader? I want you to have at least 3 chapters, but I don't want you to have more than 5. We don't want a book that's got 10 chapters. We want to see what we can fit into the chapters. So I had decided that my first chapter would be called Where Do They Live? That way I could talk about in that chapter things I learned about its habitat and where in the world it lives. So I knew a lot about that. Chapter 2, I studied the bluebird body a lot. So I'm going to call my chapter 2 Bluebird Bodies. That way I can write about the feet and the beak in that chapter. I might even talk about the food that it eats. I might even talk about the food that the bluebird eats when I talk about the beaks. But you might have a different chapter ideas. Maybe there was something that was really interesting to you. You might want a whole chapter just about food that it eats. So you are the writer, so you get to plan how you're going to organize your book. Okay, I'm going to think of a chapter 3 for me. Chapter 3. I am thinking nests. Nests, because lots of people, they have pretty interesting cavity nests, and lots of people build bluebird nesting boxes. I learned that when I was learning about the bluebirds. So I could work that into a chapter about nests. I could tell people in that chapter how to build a nesting box. That might be pretty cool. So as of right now, I'm thinking I might just want to stick with 3 chapters. As I'm writing, if I realize that I go through my research and there's all this stuff that's left over, maybe I want to have an extra chapter called Fun Facts. Okay, chapter 4. So your job today is just to make a plan by using a table of contents or creating a table of contents that you think could help guide you and organize your writing, and think about which things you want to say first in your book about your bird. So this is the work I did today. And it's okay, I didn't publish it yet. So if I decide to revise this later and change it, I can do that because I'm the writer. Just like you, this is going to be your book. At our morning meeting tomorrow, I do definitely want to see your tables of contents. I'd like us all to share our ideas about these and see if maybe we want to revise or change anything, so that we all can get ourselves set with a plan for writing this book, okay? So your next steps that we'll do start tomorrow is that we'll start writing chapter 1. We'll start writing what we know about chapter 1. But for today, you are going to hopefully look at your writing process tracker, color in the pre-write, because the pre-write was the research. This is all the stuff we did to learn about our topic before writing. We did that. And I wrote here, next I will make a table of contents, okay? After I write the whole book, that's when I'll color that. I'm not going to color that just after the table of contents. I'm going to wait until I've written the whole book. After I've written the whole book, then we'll color it and we'll move up to the next step. Okay, so right now we're just getting ourselves organized and starting to think about, how am I going to put this book together? And this is gonna take us a few weeks to write this and to write it well. And I cannot even wait to read them to you, or hear you read them. Okay. Happy planning, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have about what to do today.